everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion, and the fit for this video is the Frank Miller Ben Grimm. Let's take a look at a video.
In Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, what you think of as God is actually the devil, and what you think of as the devil is actually God.
All right, let's see it.
In the Genesis myth, we are told that Adam and Eve are ignorant in the garden, and God wanting to keep them ignorant is a good thing. Wanting them to not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge is good. And the serpent, who wants them to have that knowledge, is demonized and is literally the devil in the story.
So I would say two things here. The first is that we don't really know the motivations of the serpent in this story. They're never clarified, and the serpent is playing the role of frustrator of the antagonist, the deity in the story, which also results in undesirable consequences for humanity because this is primarily a set of etiologies for how humanity got to be the way they are, how women got to be the way they are, how men got to be the way they are, how snakes got to be the way they are. And this speculation seems to me to be motivated primarily by this rhetorical goal of reducing and simplifying both the Adam and Eve story and the Sumerian creation myths to this simple binary so that they can be held up as the mirror image of each other. And I think that is reductive and oversimplifying, and as I'm going to show, is not really taking the details seriously. The other thing I would point out is that the serpent in the Garden of Eden is nowhere represented as demonized or Satan in the story, nor is that the case in the rest of the Hebrew Bible, and as I've argued in my video number McClellan 1959, nor is that the case anywhere in the New Testament. That is a post-biblical, extra-biblical, ideological innovation.
The Sumerian creation myth, which is kind of the Sumerian approximate of Genesis, is fascinating in that it contains many parallels with the Genesis myth.
So a fundamental problem here is that there is no one Sumerian creation myth. There are numerous Sumerian creation myths, and they are vastly different from each other, and the figures within them play vastly different roles from one to another. We have one that we call the Enki Genesis because of some parallels with Genesis, but that's not even the creation account that this creator is going to talk about. We also have Gilgamesh and the Netherworld. We have Enki and Ninmah. We have Enki and the world order. We have the creation of humankind, the debate between grain and sheep, the debate between fish and bird, the debate between winter and summer. There are numerous different Sumerian creation accounts, and the deities involved do very different things and occupy very different roles from one to the other.
The story centers on this alien race of beings, literally like extraterrestrials, called the Anunnaki, who come to Earth in pursuit of gold. It's even said that our human obsession with gold is actually just an inherited infatuation from our extraterrestrial forebears, and they are our forebears in the story, which I'll get to. This race of beings gets to Earth. They want gold. They need a way to get the gold. And there's these lovely bunch of primitive monkeys that can kind of do this labor for them, and they're not smart enough to think for themselves or question or contemplate their own oppression if they are enslaved. So what do? They enslave them. Us, primates, humans.
So this is not how any Sumerian creation myth goes. This is the made-up narrative that Zechariah Sitchen fabricated for his book, The 12th Planet.
Enki is the god of wisdom and intelligence and mischief. He's kind of like this trickster sort of character. Anyways, he wants the humans to have knowledge. He wants to change the humans in a way that would free them from this animalistic intellect and actually give them higher mental faculties so they can think for themselves.
So there are numerous Sumerian creation myths. Enki plays different roles across them. The motivations of the gods are different across them. Pretty consistently, however, humanity is created so that the gods don't have to do the work that they don't want to do anymore. So humanity is created to be enslaved and to do this work. Now, Enki sometimes is trying to help humanity out. Sometimes the gods themselves are trying to help humanity out. For instance, they are created so that they can gain wisdom. That's not Enki's motivation. That's just the Anunnaki's general motivation. Sometimes Enki does not like that the humans are arbitrarily punished, so the stories with the flood generally have Enki whispering secrets to humans so that they can build an ark and they can survive the flood. We have Enki wanting humanity to achieve greater order, greater civilization. In the story of Enki and Ninmah, we have Ninmah creating humanity and decreeing a fate for each person, and then Enki saying, I am going to decree a counterbalanced fate so that these people can actually get along. And so the story talks about a bunch of different disabilities that humans are born with, and then says that Enki gave them jobs or social roles that allow them to be productive within society despite those disabilities that they are born with. So there is a bunch of different stuff going on here, and the notion that this can all be reduced down to Enki wants them to gain intelligence or wisdom, and this is the mirror image of the serpent wanting humanity to gain intelligence or wisdom is reductive, is an oversimplification, and seems to be relying again on the narrative that was made up by Zechariah Sitchen.
What the Sumerian myth gets right is that it corrects the roles, it corrects the intent that we see of these characters in the story, because the Bible sort of, I want to say whitewashes, it just cleanses the intent of the God character and makes it seem holy and proper and good that he wants to deny them knowledge. And the intent of the character that wants to give them knowledge, that intent is demonized, that character is demonized, down to literally saying that the person who wanted to give you knowledge is the devil. The person who wanted to free you from your oppression is Satan.
So this is reducing and oversimplifying both the biblical account and the Sumerian accounts, and also ignoring that the Bible is responding to and adapting these myths not directly from the Sumerian versions, but from the Akkadian Neo-Babylonian versions as they were being told over 1,000 years later. So there is a lot more complexity to this, but it is being reduced and simplified to this simple binary so that these two things can be held up as mirror images of each other, so that we can say Sumerian myth good, Bible bad, and it's just far more complex than that.
And the thing that wants to keep you enslaved and ignorant and in a state of emotional and spiritual distress, worship it. Like that just makes me feel so gross, like the thought of it. And that is just part of why I fucking hate Christianity. And the reason I mentioned Judaism and, Islam in there is because these are all Abrahamic religions, and they're more or less all worshiping Yahweh, which is the name of the biblical God. And I would argue Yahweh is just Enlil in sheep's clothing.
So this is not a very well-informed take, and it's based on flagrant misinformation, and for some reason seems to be trying to blame Christianity for this story that was originally created in Israel in the 7th century BCE. And while Christianity is the group that formalized and systematized the identification of the serpent from the Garden of Eden as Satan, that process actually begins several centuries earlier in the Enochic literature and within Greco-Roman period Judaism. So one is an outgrowth of the other, and I don't think either are actually overturning this good, benevolent story as told in the Sumerian literature. I think they're all just making use of these figures and these motifs in whatever way serves their interests and their needs and their goals, which I think is the same thing that this creator is doing, but they're just not drawing from very reliable sources.
So, I don't know. Chew on that. And also, one final note is that for anyone who's studied religion, you know that Yahweh used to be one of many gods, in a more polytheistic situation. And somehow, through some black magic of Christianity, they have whittled down the perception that there was all these gods and that Yahweh was just one of them, one of the angriest and most vengeful gods, and somehow he just became God. The God. Drop the anyways. Yeah. How did that happen? Anyways, okay. Well, it sickens me and I hate religion. Bye.
We're once again taking a process that overwhelmingly occurred within earlier Jewish periods, in this case, this pantheon reduction and this exaltation of Adonai over and against all the other gods, and we're shaking our fist at Christianity for it. The notion that this somehow essentializes all religion, and that's why religion is bad. This reflects a rather sophomoric and outdated and thoroughly Protestant conceptualization of religion, basically as Protestant Christianity. This was how Brent Nongbree said most people use the term religion today in his wonderful 2013 book, Before Religion. He said religion is anything that sufficiently resembles Protestant Christianity. And when you talk about things that are occurring in the Hebrew Bible and within early Judaism, and shake your fist at Christianity for them and say that's religion for you, you're doing precisely what Nongbree criticized, and that is understanding religion through the lenses of Protestant Christianity.